right, welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Sam Wagers, here with not one, but two guests. The Adam Caporello, as well as Eston Huff of the Filmlogic podcast. And we've got an exciting show for you tonight, talking all about Advance Wars. Obviously, Dan is taking a break, and John was feeling sick tonight, so it's me and the two guests. That's why I got two guests. Gotta fill those shoes. I actually
feel better,
it would
John.
take two guests just to fill Dan's shoes, but
yeah,
well,
heavy shoes to feel better.
That's why I got the other Caporello. You know,
there's got to be one of
us. Next best thing, right?
Exactly.
So, how are you doing tonight, Adam? Just real quick.
Doing okay. I didn't think I was going to start the Advance Wars 2 campaign. I know we'll get into that later, but I really enjoyed myself doing the first one, and we're getting so close to Tears of the Kingdom that I'm like, I'm not gonna start anything. I don't want to get it into like a commitment of a longer game. I'll just play like some shorter things or some indie stuff. But I had so much fun with it that I dove right into Advance Wars 2 today, and I'm really glad I did. So feeling good.
That's a common problem right now, is the Tears of the Kingdom looming on the horizon.
Yeah,
people are not so willing to commit to anything else, and I've taken to calling it Tears of the Dokapon Kingdom, because that game comes out just a few days before, and I really want people to play it. I want people to play it with me, but it's a hard sell right now with Zelda coming out.
Yeah, I would have been there with you. I would have gotten it, but there's just no way. It's not. I can't.
Well, Eston, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of like the same boat there. A lot of y'all gamers are out there. I'm pretty much playing all my games, calculating, how is this going to fit around that fateful Friday coming, and budget accordingly, and what games will I pause and what games can I kind of fit in. So I'm like on the Xenoblade Chronicles track right now. I'm trying to finish that DLC, and I'm also, did the Advance Wars, my first go at it. And so I'm birthing into this new franchise, new IP market here. And so, so it's something, and I trying to get as much as I can in before Tears of the Kingdom hits. And because we all know, we're trying to make a clear flight path for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I should remind everyone, of course, that RetroLogic is not just a podcast. It's a whole community of retro gamers, and you can join our active, friendly, and free Discord, where we have giveaways, contests, dive into the whole family of retro podcasts, including RetroGroove, hosted by Adam here, and Filmlogic, hosted by Eston, as well as, of course, the other great hosts, Liam and
Yes, I literally couldn't do RetroGroove without Liam. It wouldn't exist. It honestly wouldn't.
And of course, you can hang out, talk about Advance Wars, even get somebody to play some multiplayer with. Get somebody to play some multiplayer Dokapon Kingdom with. I'm not giving up, man. I'm gonna get somebody. I'd actually like to stream it to the Discord and just have everybody hang out, even if they're playing or not.
That'd be fun. Looking
forward to that. And you can, of course, find everything at the RetroLogic.games website. That's RetroLogic.games. And there you can find all the podcasts as well as the blog, which is written by me. Links to everything, socials. I think there's a link to the Twitch channel there as well, where I stream. And that goes neatly into our housekeeping. I have been streaming the Battle Network series, and the collection is out now, and I have moved on to the first stream of Battle Network 3 blue version, which I always had white version, so this is my first time playing blue. It's not that different, but there you go. It's blue. You thought Mega Man was always blue, but no, it's been fun. So that's every Monday around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I stream to the RetroLogic channel, RetroLogic Games on Twitch. John, of course, who isn't here to talk about this, has his own show, On Topic Retro, which just released an episode on Super Mario Kart. And currently we have the community game for Retro Rewind, which is Dynamite Heady for the Sega Genesis. Of course, that is also available on the Switch app for the Genesis. And I saw that there was a poll out on Super Nintendo games featuring monkeys. Uh, I don't. I have not heard what won that poll. I might have missed that. I was hoping John would be here to tell me. Uh, maybe leak it. I don't know. But I saw Spanky's Quest. I voted for Spanky's Quest.
I
Even if
voted for
it's Donkey
Spanky's
Kong
Quest.
Country. Love me some Spanky's Quest. So if you don't want Spanky's Quest to win that poll, you should log on the Discord and vote.
I voted on Spanky's Quest just for you.
There we go. I got one. Speaking of which, Filmlogic. What's going on in Filmlogic? There's a new Marvel thing, new Marvel episode.
Yeah, we did a Marvel episode. We just released. We redid our format on Filmlogic and tried to make it leaner, not meaner, and just got rid of trying to be more kind of focused on what we were doing there. And so give it a go. If you never listened to us, then it's all new to you. If you have listened to us, then it is actually something, a different format. You'll notice it's kind of more streamlined. And this week's episode that we just kind of released yesterday, we're talking about the Marvel Universe with a Thrive or Implode, and some hot takes in there by some of my other co-hosts like Adam and Mike. And but it's easy going. If you are a Marvel fan, you definitely won't be coming at us with burning torches and pitchforks and stuff like that.
And we also, of course, have RetroGroove, which I believe your last episode was the Ben Foltz episode.
Yeah, we had Dan come on. He's been wanting to. I'm sure anyone that's been following for the past 4 or 5 months has heard Dan's newfound affinity for all things piano and all things Ben Folds. So we decided to let him get it all out of his system. And we if you didn't listen to the episode, we joked that Sam and John paid us off to have him come and talk about Ben Folds so he could stop doing it on RetroLogic. But it's a great episode. Always great to have Dan on. And that one is available now. We'll have a new episode coming out soon. And we're starting to wrap up our season 2. We typically take a summer hiatus. So I think we'll have a couple more episodes and we will call it a season, and we'll come back at some point in the late summer or early fall for season 3.
All right. Sounds great. Lots of awesome things going on in the RetroLogic world. But you know what else is going on is The Price is Retro, which we play every week. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready to lose. I'm not good at this game.
Yeah, so if this is your first time playing along at home, The Price is Retro, here is how we play. I'm going to list off 4 or 5 games, and everyone has to guess how much the lot is worth in total. Whoever is closest to the actual value wins the round. Everyone has a list, and everyone guesses on each other's list. At the end, the player that won the most rounds wins the episode. But watch out for our robot, Deus Guess Machina. He averages all the guesses together for his own guess. And I actually do have a list from John, which I will add in. I'll read that to you. It is spoilered, so I don't know. I will guess on it as well. And yeah, we'll just go right away. Eston, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. Yeah, let me go in here and let me pull it up. All right. My list, actually keeping with what's actually coming out, is I actually went and got a Zelda themed list.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so first one I have is I've got the Gold Zelda on Nintendo DS Complete.
Gold Zelda? Is that the Gold Zelda DS or
Yeah,
DS
the
Lite?
console, the
yeah, the DS
system itself.
console. Yeah, DS console.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, the way I
oh
read it. Yeah,
wow.
Is that a regular DS or a DS Lite? Because I had a Zelda DS Lite.
I listed just like as far as like a regular DS.
I don't remember it. Well, I didn't have a regular DS. I only hopped on the when the light was out, so maybe I missed that. But I mean, that one came with Phantom Hourglass, so I don't think there was a Zelda game on DS until Phantom Hourglass.
Let me double check it then.
Not
Okay,
that my
so
guess would
that's
be
number
any
one.
different.
That's
Like I
number
would probably
one.
guess
Yeah,
about the
it's
same.
probably about the same. Yeah.
All right, second one I got is this will be kind of low hanging fruit. I've got Zelda Breath of the Wild Special Edition Complete.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Okay, so there were, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there were two special edition Breath of the Wild, right? There was the one that came with like the Master Sword statue, and then the one that had, I think, the other stuff, but not the Master Sword statue.
Yeah, this one I wrote down was the one that did not have the statue. It just had like
Okay.
the map and just
All
kind of
right.
the box set without the statue.
All right, got it.
Because I actually saw this in a game store here locally this past week, sealed.
Oh.
And then third one is on the NES complete inbox, the Legend of Zelda.
Gold cartridge?
Yes, where it all began. And then I'll do the fourth, the SNES Link to the Past. And that one is complete. And then the last one I have is on the N64 complete Majora's Mask.
Oh boy. Those complete in box cartridge games always seem to get me.
Did we determine what the first one was? If that was a DS? I don't remember there being, because I was a game store manager when the DS and its iterations came out, and I don't remember there ever being an original DS.
Well, that's when because I had the Phantom Hourglass Special Edition DS Lite.
Yeah,
So
it was a DS
I would
Lite.
think if they made a special Zelda Special Edition, it would have came with the game. But Phantom Hourglass was the first Zelda DS game.
Yeah, I don't recall any. Not in this region. Not in North America anyway. There may have been in other regions that I don't know about, but.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got my guess, so I'll just throw it out there. I'll guess first. I've got $775.
All right, give me 1 sec here. I just wanted to double check my stuff.
I'm doing my math here. All right. This is probably high, but I've added up my numbers. I've got 1,010.
All right. I just want to check and make
And
sure.
that puts the robot at $892.50.
All right.
For what it's worth.
Total rounding up, dropping the change, it comes up to $1,022.
Ooh!
Oh, very close, Adam. Good
Yeah,
job.
very, very
Wow.
close. Yeah.
Takes
Almost bullseye.
that round handily.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm usually really bad at this.
Breakdown on that.
I'll start from the bottom and go to the top. Majora's Mask on the N64 complete is $186. Link to the Past, $171. The original Gold Zelda, $190. Breath of the Wild Special Edition, $225. And then the Zelda Gold Nintendo DS is $250.
That was actually right on the DS. I don't know if I saw that somewhere, or I was like, yeah, $250. but I lowballed the special Breath of the Wild special edition. I lowballed a lot, and the others I was down. I was still low on like all of them by a bit. All right,
Woo,
Adam.
woo.
That's good job, Adam.
You're up next.
All right, ready for my list?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keeping somewhat with the theme of today's episode. These are all games that have the word wars in the title.
All right.
So game number 1 is Contra 3, The Alien Wars, not for resale. So this is one that it's not the retail cartridge. It's a demo unit cartridge. So this would be loose because it was never, presented in a box. Yeah. Contra 3, The Alien Wars, not for resale, loose for Super Nintendo.
Okay.
Next is Sakura Wars, So Long, My Love, for the Nintendo Wii, complete in box.
Okay.
If it's any consolation, I didn't know that game existed until tonight either.
Because you just typed wars into the search bar.
Exactly. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cast
Right. Number 3 is Star Wars, the arcade game for the Atari 2600, loose. And last but not least, you ready? Turok Rage Wars for the N64. Another caveat, gray cartridge, not the black cartridge, but the gray cartridge, loose.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let Eston go first because I went first the last round.
I'll take a stab. I'll say round total $365.
I've got $250.
The total of all 4 of these games based on today's price charting value is $1,042.99.
Good grief.
Is that the not for resale? Like, what's the breakdown here?
Yeah.
Okay, so Contra 3, The Alien Wars, not for resale is $247.52 loose.
Well, see, if I was just guessing that, I would have been real close.
Yeah.
Sakura Wars, So Long, My Love for the Wii complete is $75. Star Wars, the arcade game for the 2600 loose is $51.86. And Turok Rage Wars, gray cartridge, which I didn't know existed until this evening, loose is $668.61.
Man.
So that must be exceedingly rare.
I was dead wrong there.
Yeah. Contra, that last one threw me off.
See, I assumed the gray cartridge must have just been like a Nintendo's proto Nintendo Selects or something, so it was probably like even cheaper than the black. But
yeah, I probably would have
dead wrong
had the same thought process. Just I've never seen a gray cartridge Rage Wars. I think the black cartridge is like $12 or something like that. It's not a rare or expensive game. But yeah, that that value stood out to me, and I was like, gray cartridge. And yeah, sure enough, I looked up the pictures, and it was a retail. It must had a really, really low run. So,
all right,
my apologies, but that's what makes this game fun.
That makes it fun. Yeah, definitely.
You guys, I'm out, and my I guess we do have John's list, but I don't think I can win at this point. So I'll do my lot next. Let me just pull that up real quick. My theme is also based on a word that doesn't have a whole lot to do with Advance Wars, but it is a strategy game and it involves using your brain. So my list is all games with the word brain in the title.
Sweet.
First up, I have Rayman Brain Games for the PlayStation, complete in box. Followed by Brain Dead 13 for the Sega Saturn, loose. Big Brain Academy Wii Degree for the Wii, naturally, complete in box. And lastly, Brain Lord for the Super Nintendo, loose. So I believe it is Adam's turn to guess first.
All right, again, I'm doing my math here. It's not my strong suit.
Computations.
Okay, so I've got 345.
345, all right. Eston, what's your guess?
210.
210. So Eston is going to take it because you're both high.
Ooh.
The total is $112.04.
Okay, I guarantee you I way overshot that Saturn game.
So we'll start there then. So Brain Dead 13 for the Sega Saturn, $42.16.
Yeah, I heard Sega Saturn and I just put $200 there just right
That's,
there.
that's usually fair, right? If it's not a sports game. Rayman Brain Games for the PlayStation, complete in box, $5. Big Brain Academy Wii Degree for the Wii, complete in box, $6.54. And Brain Lord for the Super Nintendo, loose, $58.34. So we do have one more list because John did send his in. So Adam has a chance to tie. I have a chance to put myself on the board, I guess. And I guess so does the robot. So we'll just have to see what happens. John's list is as follows. Dawn of Discovery for the Wii, complete. Halo Wars for the Xbox 360, complete. Dune, The Battle for Arrakis, Sega Genesis, complete. And Warcraft 2 for the Sega Saturn, complete.
What was the first one again?
Dawn of Discovery for the Wii. And they're all complete in box.
I don't know what that is. All right. I gotta guess.
All right. I don't know who guesses first because we've all guessed first once. So I guess I will volunteer myself. I am going to guess 275.
Now I'll go next.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say 210 again.
210.
Not because I didn't redo the math. I just happened to kind of land on that again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at 360.
And 360 for Adam. Let's see what the total is. The total is $221.21.
Wow.
So
if I overshot that Saturn game again.
Oh wow.
With a sweep, just about 3-1, yeah. Every lot but your own. So there you go. That's as good as you can do.
All right.
We have a guest winner. You just see, you gotta
Nice.
guess when John's not around. That's win as a guest.
That's twice now. Twice I've come on and been a guest winner.
So breakdown here is Dawn of Discovery for the Wii, $13.71. Halo Wars for the 360, $7.50. Dune, The Battle for Arrakis, Sega Genesis, $140. So
So close on
that's
that.
the big one.
Yeah.
Warcraft 2 for the Saturn, $60.
Ugh.
Yeah,
Again.
another Saturn game that was not that expensive.
Yeah, I also guessed 200 on that, so I'm gonna stop overshooting. Everyone's like, "Oh, Saturn's ridiculously expensive." Apparently not as much as I
word on the
thought.
street.
The not very well known Saturn games are still a bit of a toss up. Yeah.
Well, I was never really, other than the 16-bit era, I wasn't a Sega dude. So
I was never a Sega person myself either.
Welcome back to RetroLogic episode 101, an episode that, as it turns out, has been essentially a month in the making. This is on me. Some things kind of went down, and Zencastr lost the second half of the recording. So by the time you're hearing this, you should have heard a intro segment and our housekeeping, which is probably a little out of date by now, to be honest, as well as Prices Retro and our trivia. So everybody congratulate Eston on his second guest Prices Retro win. I don't think any other guest has won Prices Retro twice.
I don't know that anyone has won ever, except for Eston.
I think there have been a few. It's pretty rare, and I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that you're not playing. You were not playing this occasion. And as you just heard, John is back with us. He was not there for that initial recording, but we are here to finish the job. So thank you for your patience with our little hiatus. We tried to get Adam and Eston back to record this, but coordinating with two guests is rather difficult. And both John and I had a lot of stuff going on. So it just kind of turned into this. So we hope you enjoy this discussion of Advance Wars. We'll finish it out and get back into the groove of things, and RetroLogic will continue. John, do you have anything to add to that?
Kind of to what Sam was saying, that since some of the housekeeping is a little outdated, I can kind of bring us up to date on at least on Topic Retro. I just put out a show on Dynamite Heady, which was the Retro Rewind game for May. It was also kind of behind, but finally got it out there. And that was the Retro Rewind game for April. Sorry. May was Donkey Kong Country 2, which if you listen to the latest episode of On Topic Retro and are a part of the Discord, you'll find out that I extended Donkey Kong Country 2 into the month of June, and I'm still accepting submissions for the contest as well for Retro Rewind Champions. If you guys are playing Donkey Kong Country 2, you can snap a picture of your save screen and show me how many DK coins that you've collected, and enter for a chance to win $10. That's still open. I think that's pretty much all I've got going on. Nope, there is one more thing. A couple weeks from now, the next episode of On Topic Retro will be featuring The Legend of Zelda, the original game. So you guys can look forward to that as well.
All right. Sounds great. So let's get right into our show topic, which is Advance Wars Reboot Camp. John, what exactly is you are an Advance Wars veteran. Isn't that right? So you're coming into this with, did you play both 1 and 2 prior?
Yes, but I played them both at launch. So this game was almost like a brand new game for me because it had been so long since I'd played through them. I had to kind of teach myself how Advance Wars works all over again because I've been playing so much Fire Emblem over the last pretty much couple decades that Advance Wars is totally different.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think there. I think I heard. I'm trying not to be mean, but I heard a number of people try this game out from the Intelligent Systems connection as Fire Emblem fans who hadn't been exposed to Advance Wars 2, and they're like, "Man, this is really hard." And a part of me, being a little bit too judgmental, perhaps, is like, you just got Fire Emblem brain, man. You gotta
Yeah, you got to
unlearn
reteach
that.
it.
You can't just level up your unit and then watch it tear through everything.
Yep.
You gotta think a couple moves ahead here. But it is really just a different. I mean, and to me, the Advance Wars series feels more like a true strategy game, as I would call it.
Yes.
I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it, but Fire Emblem is kind of an RPG first, and a strategy game second. That's at least
Yep.
always been how I've felt about it. Advance Wars, the big difference there is that you don't have any of that level up mechanics. Dual Strike had a little bit. You could actually like level up skills for your COs that would improve their unit stats slightly. It did make the game a little bit easier, but in 1 and 2, units are interchangeable, and once you get a couple missions into the campaign, you will regularly be fighting against armies that outnumber you and outpower you. So you're going to have to win by having better positioning than the opponent, as it were.
Yeah, kind of to what you were saying, I feel Advance Wars is not even really an RPG whatsoever in my mind. Like it's 100% strategy.
Unless you're one of those people that says every game's an RPG because
exactly.
you play a role. We won't get into the what's an RPG conversation again here, but I think if it means anything, it can't really apply to Advance Wars.
Yeah, there's zero about Advance Wars that there's no. Like you're not even really taking on a role at this point. Like you're basically just playing chess with war machines to an extent.
Yep.
Where Fire Emblem, there's a lot more RPG elements to those games, especially more modern Fire Emblem is probably even more RPG than strategy.
Yeah, especially when most of them have that social game layer on top of the actual battles. This is battles front and center, and it's just pure goodness in my opinion.
You could even go as far like this almost has like some real time elements, like real time strategy elements, even though it's not a real time strategy game. Like you can build new units from factories and
I wouldn't necessarily call that a real time element, but I definitely agree. You see a lot of that in RTS games where it's gather resources to build.
Well, I think
units.
that's kind of where that originated, though. It's kind of lost in time now, But I think back to Command and Conquer or even Warcraft or something of that nature, and this game feels way more attuned to those than other strategy games or tactics games.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing this game in 2001, and at that time, I was just fully engulfed by StarCraft and Command and Conquer, and this game felt just like having those type of games in my hand, playing on a handheld, just kind of pared down to a micro-sized version. So,
yeah, and I mean, this was the vanguard. Speaking of Fire Emblem, this was the vanguard for Fire Emblem in a lot of ways. This style of game, even though strategy RPGs were huge on the Super Famicom and the PlayStation, a lot of those weren't getting localized. And there was a perception that the North American market and the European market just wouldn't, these games wouldn't appeal to them. And Advance Wars actually moved that bundle, Advance Wars kind of moved that perception a lot and led directly to, I believe it was stated by one of the people at Intelligent Systems, that really moved that perception and allowed them to finally bring Fire Emblem over with the 7th game on the Game Boy Advance for a global market. So that's very interesting. On that topic, since I kind of broached it already, the series has a very odd history. I think we've touched on this in a prior episode. But the series has a very odd history when it comes to localization, such that essentially no region has access to every Advance Wars game. Japan kind of does, but just to kind of walk through it, the series started with Super Famicom Wars on the Super Famicom, obviously, and there were, I believe,
it was just Famicom Wars.
Yeah, Famicom Wars on the Famicom, Super Famicom Wars on the Super Famicom.
Yep,
and then the Game Boy Wars series, which I think is 3 games.
Yep.
And so those are all Japan only. But Advance Wars
would be
itself,
a collection to get localized, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Advance Wars itself was scheduled to release in Japan a little bit after the US release, but wound up getting delayed because it was actually scheduled to release on just after the September 11th attacks in 2001. So it's weirdly this long-running thing with delays happening due to real-world events. The U.S. release coincidentally released on September 10th, 2001.
I mean, it's ridiculous, though, and I don't want to sound, insensitive, but there's really no real-life comparison with these games to a real life war.
I've always felt that way, and I said as much. I think in the heat of the moment, people are like,
it's a cartoon war game.
This is an appropriate reason to delay the game, and like at the end of the day, this was Nintendo's decision.
Yeah,
I think if people were calling on Nintendo to delay the game because of real world political situations, I would have been probably a bit upset with those people. I would have even been upset with Nintendo maybe if it had looked like they caved to that. They got out in front of it, and at the end of the day, like, they don't owe us a video game. Like, it's their game; they can release it when they want. To this day, I almost suspect maybe there might have been, there can always be multiple reasons, and you state the one that gives you the most credibility. I do wonder if that was the case, that maybe there were some other things they took advantage of the delay to work on. I don't know if that's true. It doesn't seem like that would have been necessary, but the
way they made it sound like, they had physical copies of this game just sitting in warehouses. Like, I remember hearing people talk about it like they were just there for a long time.
Yes, and I believe the game even leaked on the eShop like really far ahead of time for people that had preloaded it.
Yep.
Actually got access and well ahead of time. As long as you didn't reconnect your Switch to the internet, you could actually keep playing it. Very odd. I mean, the whole situation though it's very strange, and it seems to me like it fell under extra scrutiny purely because the word war was in the title.
Yeah, and since they decided to hold it off, I think it took so long to come out because Nintendo operates on Windows, and I think there was just too much going on. They had to kind of find a place to stick it, after that it had been delayed for a little while. They can't just throw it in at any time willy-nilly and expect it to be successful. Like, they were waiting for that place to kind of stick it in where it fits. So...
yeah. Anyway, so all that to say, not the only time that's happened. The original Advance Wars got delayed in Japan and did not release until 3 years later in 2004. But what actually they got was essentially this game. It was Advance Wars 1 and 2 on a single cartridge. So this was the first time Japanese fans would have played either one of those games, unless, of course, they imported it from the U.S. or somewhere. Yeah. So very odd. And Days of Ruin also did not release in Japan initially and only released as an eShop exclusive. So there was no physical release of Days of Ruin in Japan. So it's very odd that you have this series that was Japan only for the first 5 games, and then the next game was for several years US and Europe only. And then
did they get Dual Strike?
They did get Dual Strike, I believe, same time. Maybe there was a brief window there. But yeah, Dual Strike was not held up in any way. Another thing that's just kind of interesting, since I'm looking through the notes right now about the development, is that Reboot Camp, of course, as we know, is developed by the Way Forward. Right. The people who make Shantae and several others. Very well known. But this is not the first time that they outsourced development to a third party. The Game Boy Wars series, including Game Boy Wars Turbo 2 and 3. So Turbo was like a kind of enhanced re-release of the first game. Those were all developed by Hudson. And Battalion Wars 1 and 2, if you want to include those in the series, even though they're kind of their own thing, was developed by a company called Kuju Entertainment. What's kind of interesting, I have heard that I think it's Game Boy Wars 3 in specific, is a little bit different from the first couple of games because Hudson was making it. It actually bears a little bit more similarity to the Military Madness game for TurboGrafx, which, if you have a TurboGrafx Mini or downloaded it on the Wii eShop back in the day, or Wii U eShop, is worth checking out if you're an Advance Wars fan, because it does still, it's a very similar style of game. It's not the exact same. There's a lot of emphasis on like flanking enemies to have strong attacks. But that was also, of course, developed by Hudson, and so they had their crack at the Game Boy Wars series prior to Advance Wars. I don't have too much familiarity with the Game Boy Wars games. My understanding is they aren't quite like Advance Wars. Advance Wars was a reboot of the series. Same with Famicom Wars, Super Famicom Wars. I think some of the trademark elements were missing, and you won't see any of the characters we know from Advance Wars 2, and Dual Strike, like Andy and Max and Sammy and all them. Those were all created for Advance Wars. So it really was kind of a fresh start. And so that's kind of interesting because like Advance Wars is part of this just Wars series, but you can tell that like it kind of took over it, like because they carried those characters forward, and it almost became like a international focus series, or even North America and Europe focus series, because Japan was like not getting these games, and even to the point where when they made a DS game, it wasn't called DS Wars. It was Advance Wars DS, Advance Wars Dual Strike, and Advance Wars Days of Ruin. So,
yep,
it's kind of interesting that the name stuck, and we're still calling it Advance Wars.
They didn't call it DS Wars.
If that didn't happen, we might be playing Switch Wars right now. I don't
That's
know.
right.
So all that to say, that's pretty much it. If I wasn't clear on my history with the series, I'd played the first 2 games. Advance Wars 2, I played a lot after Advance Wars 1. Advance Wars 1 was a game my brother got, actually. And it was primarily his game, but I would play it with him a lot. I think before I ever touched the campaign, I played a lot of multiplayer with him. It was definitely one of the standout features of the game for me. I know I've mentioned this before, but so many Game Boy Advance games with the link cable, I never really got to play multiplayer because like relying on somebody else to have their Game Boy with them and a copy of the game you both wanted to play, it just didn't come together for me unless it was Pokemon. Everybody had Pokemon. Everybody wanted to trade Pokemon. But other games, like I was playing Battle Network. Nobody ever wanted to battle me in Battle Network, man. I
You can
never
play
found
multiplayer Tetris
other
with the link
people who
cable.
had. I never found other people who had Battle Network. The great thing about Advance Wars was you only needed one Game Boy and one copy of the game because you could pass it back and forth because it's entirely turn-based.
It was
And
so
that
good
was
for
just,
road trips.
yep, it was a road trip staple. And so that was really how I got into it, was playing against him. And eventually I borrowed it long enough to play through the campaign. I didn't really know about the sequel until, probably I was a teenager and I was following up on some stuff and finding some stuff on eBay. So I managed to get that. I don't even have my copy of Advance Wars 2 anymore. I don't think. I'm not sure what happened to it. So it had been a long time since I played the campaign on the first two. But RetroLogic longtime listeners may recall me going on a deep dive back into Dual Strike a couple years ago because that game just sucked me right back in. Like I just on a whim put Dual Strike back into my DS and I dropped other games I was playing to just completely play through the campaign again because these games are just that good. And there really aren't a whole lot of other games that scratch that itch, especially coming out now. But we have seen stuff like Wargroove that's definitely targeting it.
Yep.
So I think that may have spurred Nintendo towards this re-release. But overall, John, what are your thoughts on Reboot Camp as a whole? Has it reinvigorated your interest in Advance Wars? Is it what you expected? Were you hoping for maybe a little bit more?
So, as far as my enjoyment of it, I do like that they kind of left it alone as far as the like it's how it works and everything, and really worked on the presentation of it. I do wish that there was, maybe a DLC type, bonus campaign parts that they could have thrown in, maybe added a little bit more to the game, or maybe further bridge the gap between the first and the second game. I haven't played the second game on Reboot Camp yet. I only played through the first game. But yeah, man, it looks crisp. It runs really good. Which, I mean, weren't really problems on the Game Boy Advance. I think this kind of helps get more people thinking about Advance Wars and maybe is building towards a new game in the franchise, is what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean that's always the hope, I think, because you know my thoughts on remakes. I'm generally not for remakes. I think if the original was good, you don't need to change it, and if it wasn't good, then why do you need to devote yourself to recreating it?
I mean, I wouldn't even call this a remake. Like, this is a port with polished graphics.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what we're looking at here is the exact same maps. The exact same maps,
a one
the
for
exact
one.
same campaign. The only thing that really has changed is the presentation.
Yep.
So I guess in detail, is there anything that stood out to you about the presentation? I know some people weren't terribly keen on the art style. I think it's fine. I do at sometimes miss the sprites.
Yeah. I like the sprite work, but I
Definitely
can
everything's proportioned the way it was before. So I think that helps. The toy aesthetic is a little bit more pronounced, I think, than initially. But that doesn't necessarily bother me.
No. And it's fine. Like, I like how it looks. I like that I like that they put their spin on it. I mean, Nintendo could have literally just given us Advance Wars 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Online and said we're done with it. But I really think that this kind of gives, for one, it's a trial run. Way Forward put all this together, so maybe we'll get a new Advance Wars from Way Forward. And I think that if they took that art style and maybe gave Advance Wars a little bit more story, I could live with that, because I think that's really the only thing that I really lack, or that Advance Wars lacks for me, is any kind of real story. I know the second game gets a little bit better at that, but
I think Days of
still
Ruin
not stand out.
is probably the most story heavy. That's the
Yeah.
one I haven't played.
I
looked at Days of Ruin. The thing is, I looked at Days of Ruin and I'm like, what? Where's Andy? Where's Max? Where's Sammy? This isn't my Advance Wars. They changed it. Now it's terrible, which is probably not fair to it.
No, and I think
I definitely turned my nose up at it at first glance.
It got a lot of flack, I think, for moving to a different art style when it released, because it is a different looking game. Like, it's more, for lack of better terms, anime styled, drawing.
Yeah.
And it's the one that I haven't played either, and that I don't own. It's the only US Advanced, Wars that I don't have. I need to remedy that at some point. But I think to me, the art style on Reboot Camp is fine.
Yeah, I think the character portraits are really great to me.
Yeah.
They made these characters a little more expressive while definitely staying true to those initial designs. So I think they look really good in motion. There isn't a whole lot of animation. I mean, you get a couple of these little cutscenes. You at least get the kind of moving portraits. They have more expressions that they go through, which I think does help.
And they're voiced.
Yeah, not everything's voiced though.
But
just certain lines.
Definitely more than there was on the original Advance Wars game.
I do still have to say though that I miss Advance Wars 1 Sturm. When he just looks like a sniffet.
Yeah.
Always has a special place in my heart. In both campaigns now, he looks like he does in Advance Wars 2 more so, where he's kind of like a Darth Vader clone kind of look. He's got that triangle vent on his mask instead of the weird long nose.
Yep. But no, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, the music I think is another highlight.
It's got great music.
I think the series has always had great music, but the thing is, the Game Boy Advance is just not the best sound system. I think we can say that
it's not a powerhouse.
There are some great soundtracks on the Game Boy Advance, but I think that is a case where it's sort of despite the sound chip rather than because of it. So I do really enjoy hearing some of these character tracks, and they go a long way too towards, especially back on the Game Boy Advance. They really helped establish these characters' personalities in a way that is up there with how Mega Man does that for Mega Man bosses. When you have at least these characters, I guess, at least have, portraits. They didn't used to have any animations, really, in the original game. But they have portraits, they have some lines, but, really the music communicates a lot about their personalities. So I think that they didn't really touch these compositions, but they were able to use some modern instrumentation. As far as I tell, they're all as I remember them. But they sound really good now.
Yeah, they definitely reworked them in a way that they stayed faithful to the original tracks, but you could definitely tell that they've been boosted and remastered in a way that sound like they sound great.
There's a ton of variety too. I mean, I always liked Sammy's theme, but I mean, you get Olaf's weird march with the little sleigh bells that come in, and you get Grit's lazy country vibe going. It's great. Um, we've touched on it a little bit with the pass and play, but as far as Reboot Camp goes, have you had a chance to play any multiplayer?
I have not played any multiplayer because this one has full online, right? Where you can.
Well, the online is a bit of a touchy point for some people because you are only permitted to play with friends, and it's a bit limited in what you can do. So that's the main limitation, really, is there's no playing against randoms. And one thing a lot of people were hoping for, myself included, was a asynchronous
Yep.
game mode, like Wargroove, for
That
example.
would have been awesome.
Which in a game like this, there's not really any reason they couldn't do that other than lack of initiative. As far as not playing with randoms, that probably doesn't bother me as much.
No.
I might have enjoyed a ladder for this game, but realistically, especially with as many games came out just after and absorbed my time, I was not going to be climbing a ranked ladder for this.
No.
It probably would have brought to light some balance issues more than anything.
And that might be what Nintendo was worried about.
Well, especially because one thing I would have actually preferred, because I understand campaign, you can't really touch that particularly. But I think for War Room and multiplayer maps, which are combined, that is one kind of benefit we have, is that it pools all the War Room and multiplayer maps from both games together, along with a map editor, which was there in Advance Wars 2.
Yep.
Is instead of like rebalancing the COs for that, you basically can pick whether you want to play Advance Wars 1 or Advance Wars 2.
Yeah, I wonder
you cannot mix and match them. You cannot, play Advance Wars 1 Max versus Advance Wars 2 Grit or anything. You have to, when you pick the map, you basically pick your style, I think is what the game calls it. Because honestly, looking back at it too, I forgot how unbalanced some of the CO powers and
they're horrible.
passives were, especially in Advance Wars 1. I think Dual Strike actually did the best job of balancing them. It's just that it then added Dual Strikes on top of it, which are kind of a little bit too powerful, and then the game just centers around them. But the thing is, Dual Strike gave you the ability to play non-tag battles too. But like Advance Wars 1, you can you can tell they knew how unbalanced it was, because you look at Max's bonuses in Advance Wars 1 and 2, and they cut his bonus from 150% increase to direct damage vehicles to 120%.
Yeah.
So less than half as much in the second game. Which, I mean, you have some other changes, other powers relative to that changed, the addition of superpowers. But all the same, I mean, it just goes to show you, like, balance was not really particularly well thought out in the first game, and they weren't willing to revisit it. I would have liked to see that. Hopefully in the future, if they make another game, they will learn from the past once again. But I did get to play some multiplayer against Adam.
Nice.
And we did talk about it initially, but that recording was lost. So I just want to, mention how fun that was. I definitely stayed up late that night. There aren't a lot of games that make me stay up late at night these days.
Advance Wars is
I'm pretty punctual about bedtime a lot of the time, but we got into one particular map, and it was just a 30 turn long stalemate for a long time. And because he was playing Max, right? I was actually playing Sammy, and I pretty much just had a very slowly creeping mech wall that it took a long time, but I eventually tipped the city number in my favor, right? And so he did surrender at that point, because I was making progress, and now I was earning more money every turn than he was, because I'd captured more cities. But it took a long time to get there. but it was a ton of fun, and it was like neither one of us could even think about putting the game down until that match was resolved. So yeah, shout outs to Adam. Thank you for playing. Thank you for recording. Um, I want to say more about that, but I don't know. You had to be there. You had to watch the whole play by play. It was great. But I really do think multiplayer is one of the things where these games do shine. At the same time, like it can be very hard to get those experiences. It's not quite as bad, I think, as fighting games, but you really do need somebody like on the same level of skill as you. Otherwise, it's just not fun.
Yeah, you're just gonna walk the map.
Well, one of you is, and it's not fun for either of you when that
exactly.
happens.
So, what do you think about the idea of another game, and do you think it would fit in the do you think they would go somewhere totally different with it, or you think they would try to bring back the original characters and kind of squeeze them into a third game in that timeline?
I would hope for the original characters returning. You can always rework abilities and things. I mean, they've done that from game to game. The only thing you would maybe worry about is, especially if they wanted to bring in all the characters from Dual Strike, is that's just a very crowded cast at that point. And you want to make room for new ones, because that's more interesting. What kind of new characters can we add? What kind of abilities are they going to have? And you could even just replace maybe some of the less popular ones with kind of new variants. One thing that you could even do is bring in like legacy characters. You could be like, oh, Drake. Now we have a new Green Earth CO, and she's like Drake's daughter or something.
Yeah,
and like she has Navy-based abilities, but they're a little bit different. You could do something like that. Kind of have a new generation. That would actually be. I think it would just be really weird to see like Andy as an old man. But I would be here for it. I would be here for like old man Andy being like our new Nell that teaches us about warfare.
Yeah.
And I think story wise, I'm ultimately not really that concerned about it. The main thing is, since we noted, Way Forward very faithfully adapted the maps of the campaign and the war room maps, the multiplayer maps. That does mean that they would have an additional challenge if Way Forward specifically was going to make a new Advance Wars game. Is they've proven they understand how the game works, and they can make a pretty looking game that runs well and all that. They have not actually done map design. And that's so crucial. As I've said before, like strategy games you are balancing on a knife's edge with difficulty and level design, because if you make your levels, your maps too difficult or too overwhelming, like people are going to give up before they even learn. And if you make them too easy, like it's not strategy. Like pure and simple. If you just roll over the enemy because you outnumber their army 2-1, like that's not even strategy. Like you're not engaging with the actual mechanics of the game. You're just kind of watching a slaughter, right? That's my biggest concern, and that's not to say I don't think Way Forward can do it. It's just that they haven't yet.
Maybe it's a joint, deal with, both developers, maybe Way Forward and Intelligent Systems, because they've done that before with other things where they've helped.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say for a new installment too is, one thing you would probably expect is more new units, and I'm not really sure what they could add as far as like actual.
You don't want to just
you don't want to just bog down the selection with like
you'd have to replace old ones.
Even bigger tank, right? Than the Neo tank, or there was a large tank that was in Dual Strike though. Neo tanks were added in Advance Wars 2.
But I mean, they could take units away and add things.
Maybe
make the tanks have like some or maybe have the vehicles have like upgradability. Even like there's some different things you could do. Change it up.
It's a matter of like making sure it works, that it doesn't
Has to be balanced.
overcomplicate it as well, and it fits within the balance.
Yep.
So I mean that's the thing, is like how do you make it feel new? Because with the exact same unit selection, even if the maps are different, you're probably going to feel like you're using the same strategies you've always used. So yeah, I mean that's the other big concern, and I don't particularly have too many ideas for how that would work. Even by the time of Dual Strike, it seemed like it was a bit of a struggle. Stealth fighters were pretty great. I liked stealth fighters.
Yep.
But like some of the other black hole units were like, they filled a role in the campaign, but like you weren't using them in other maps, like Uzium. Like nobody wants to use Uzium.
Yeah.
I think one space at a time. It's just a damage sponge.
Yeah, or maybe even having your COs, playable on the field.
Oh, that's what I don't think I want that though. That's what RetroGroove did. Save that for RetroGroove.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they improve upon it, because the way that I look at it now is RetroGroove has kind of taken the mantle of Advance Wars away from Advance Wars, and I think Nintendo's gonna have to do something.
It has, and
different.
I like RetroGroove, but I never really saw it as a replacement.
Well, whenever you're not getting a new game, it is a replacement.
Well, yeah, it was to tide me over until Advance Wars finally came back. Which it did.
Yeah, but it came back, and we just got 1 and 2 again, so it's still the definitive.
At any rate, as much as I love Dual Strike, and it's probably my favorite game in the series, I don't want them to remake Dual Strike. That just doesn't make sense to me. Like, just make a new game. I want a new game. I have Dual Strike. Dual Strike's great. I can play Dual Strike again anytime. And this is my approach to remakes. I'm not going to be that guy who's going to say, "Oh, I can't wait to play Dual Strike again." Clearly, I can, because I'm not playing it right now, and I have it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we are going to get some form of new Advance Wars game, because they went through the trouble to hand this out and have somebody remaster this game. Whenever they could have easily just thrown this on the online. I mean, and it would have been little to no effort. So I think this is just to kind of get everyone used to Advance Wars again, and then I think we'll get a new entry.
And I hope it's brought new players in. I haven't heard too many, but we had a couple, and it's a shame we lost the recording, because Eston was one of them. It was the RetroLogic effect that got him to buy into this game.
Yeah.
So I hope some people have taken notice. I hope they have, in fact, enjoyed the game as much as I have and still do. I hope the future's bright for it. I think there's a place for it in Nintendo's roster of IP, because they don't really have, like, as we said, like, they have Fire Emblem, but Fire Emblem's really an RPG. It's an RPG on a grid. It's
a lot different.
So I think there's a place for these games still, just as the designer, his name's Kentaro Nishimura. I didn't find it in the notes when I was talking about him before, but he said there was a perception people in North America especially didn't like. Nintendo of America basically said people aren't going to like that game here, and this changed their mind, and that made Fire Emblem possible. And hopefully, with as much as Fire Emblem's blown up, maybe it can reverse that current back towards Advance Wars a little bit.
Hopefully. I'm ready for a new one.
So any other closing thoughts on Reboot Camp or just Advance Wars as a whole? Who's your favorite CO to play as?
I'm probably with Adam. I like Max.
Max is kind of overpowered in the first game.
He is, sure. And that's
I've always liked Sammy. You control cities, you control the map. The ability to bring a city very close to capture in one turn is very strong.
What's the sniper guy?
Grit.
Yeah, it's Grit.
I've always liked Grit too.
His ability is
Well, you play this is about as far as I got in the Advance Wars 2 campaign. There is, because Advance Wars 2 does step it up by giving you maps where you play as basically every CO that isn't Black Hole. And there's a map where you play as Grit, and you basically you're playing against an enemy that has like a whole fleet of medium tanks, but they're corralled into this mountain range and they have to like spiral in towards you, so you just get to pelt them with rockets and artillery. Like you're massively outnumbered, but you just get to, they give you a map you can heavily abuse.
You just get to wail on them.
Yep. Yeah, grit has always been strong because +1 range to, especially the artillery. It makes the artillery so much more dangerous. The rockets are good too, but I mean his artillery are, because those are still cheaper actually than tanks. They are a huge threat as long as you can keep them safe with other units to block attacks. Just massive threat range.
Yeah.
I went through the trouble of unlocking Nell. I've always enjoyed playing as Nell, even though it feels kind of hacks, just because of her luck ability, especially her CO power. It is never not funny to destroy a medium tank with infantry.
I agree.
Doesn't always work, but if you do the infantry swarm, you can get it to work at least once.
I was trying to take a look at all of them again because I've forgotten all the ones from 2. There's a bunch of them. Can't forget about let's see, which one is this? Was Hachi in 2?
Hachi was in 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Hachi is like Colin, but better.
Yeah.
He's one of those that almost feels like cheating.
Yeah.
Because he has cheaper units without them being weaker. They're not quite as much cheaper, but yeah. Yeah, Hachi's very strong. I always liked Hawk as well. He's always been very powerful, just for having a strong basic passive with like no weaknesses. His only real drawback is his power takes a long time. It's not a bad power, but it takes a long time to charge up. And of course, Eagle. Eagle's always been crazy with the take 2 turns.
Yep.
It's always pretty much been the best CO power.
Yeah. I mean, 2 turns is nice.
Especially if you combine that with a dual strike, if you're playing dual strike. Not in this game, but the Eagle-Sammy combination is ridiculous. Take 3 turns in a row, instant capture the capital. On small maps, it's just an instant win.
Pretty much.
As long as there aren't too many units in the way.
I think that's all I've got on the topic for sure.
All right. Well, let us know if you've been playing Advance Wars. I'm still game for multiplayer matches if anyone else is. I know there's a lot of other stuff out now. A little game called Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom did release in the time since our last recording. But I hope you enjoyed listening to this topic, and I hope any of the rest of you out there have been enjoying the game, and we will see you next time on RetroLogic. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We are proudly a part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you're welcome to jump into our friendly and 100% non-toxic Discord community. You can find everything on our website. That includes our other podcasts, RetroGroove, Filmlogic, as well as On Topic Retro, and articles, blog posts, all kinds of stuff on the website retrologic.games. Until next time, see you later.
Bye now.
Factor crab number 4. If you give Dan a banana, he will sing the DJ rap.
Fact.
I think that's a fact because I think he'll sing the DJ rap. Let me give him the banana.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't even have to give him the
Just do
banana. You just have to mention Donkey Kong.